Matty and Steve, they set the stage. From classic bouts to the modern age. Every slam, every story, every legacy comes alive with wrestling pedigree. So tune on in, the spotlight's bright. The ring is ready on this podcast night. It's wrestling pedigree.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special episode of the Wrestling Pedigree podcast. I'm your host, Matty, and with me is a special guest and someone I've been following for a few years now, and I'm so psyched to have her on. Try not to butcher her name because due to my accent, but welcome, Xenia.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's actually Xenia, but
fine.
As someone with an exotic name in America, I'm used to all different variations. We were actually talking about that recently because, Mania Week has just concluded. So whenever someone sees me in public and they call my name, I've had to get used to all different variations. Be like, I think that's me. Hello. So
that literally with the accent from the UK, we're 2 hours away from London, so it's kind of mixture of New York and Alabama for me. So I'm a country boy, but a city boy all mixed into one. So that's the accent for it. So I do apologize for that.
No worries.
I wanted you on here for a long while. It's I want to know one thing straight away: is how are you?
How am I?
How are you?
I am good. I feel like we all have the post WrestleMania blues. At least I usually do. But we also went to the NWA tapings here in Tampa this past weekend, and filmed some very cool short form content. I've been collabing with NWA on that, so that's coming soon. Life goes on, wrestling goes on.
It does. I saw you that you were at WrestleMania week last week. I need to ask you, what was it like seeing the collective and all the other shows and watching it by poolside?
It's awesome, and I've done Mania week, I think in this last consecutive, I want to say 6 years. And I'm of a firm belief that, if you are a professional in this sphere and if you're trying to make it in any regards that there could be, you have to be there if you can, right? If you can afford it, if you can do it. And, watching poolside, we did this last year too. We had a cabana at Palms as well. And I found that's a very good way to watch WrestleMania, to soothe the pain from some, unfortunate results and unfortunate match timings.
Absolutely. I think I saw on social media that Sean Ross Sapp was poolside also.
I didn't see him there, but I wouldn't be surprised. I did see him at the collective at JCW actually. Sean is a good friend, so yeah, he usually also tries not to miss Mania week.
Am I right saying that he's like a mentor to you, or he give you loads of advice before?
Yeah, 100%. He's a friend, but I also see him very much as a mentor, and he was there for me, in the moments where I was not really just starting in the industry, but just starting in America. And just starting to get, bigger interviews, starting to find myself, in circles where I was very worried about, am I doing it right? What are people going to think and all of that. And in moments of trouble, he's always been there. And I have so much respect and admiration for him.
That's awesome. I love his content, and I like how he pulls no punches and sticks to his guns. How did you get into wrestling? How did you get hooked into wrestling?
I was a kid. I was 11 when I started watching, and I just so happened to be in London in a hotel room because my mom is a designer and a model and an artist, and she had work in London. And I was flipping through the channels at the hotel room, and I stumbled upon SmackDown. And, the rest is history. And it's funny that at that time, I barely even spoke English. So I didn't even really understand what was happening. But it hooked me, just the excitement, I guess, of the big personas and the pyro at the time and everything.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you have a particular favorite growing up?
Yeah, I had a bunch of favorites growing up, and one of my favorites growing up is still a favorite, and that would be The Miz. He was one of my favorite wrestlers where I was like, okay, this is my guy. Another childhood favorite was Edge, and I actually have like a very interesting thing that like it was one of my earliest videos that I've ever done on YouTube where I talked about the story where I had weird like points of contact with the Edge persona before I ever started watching wrestling. Like my childhood friend had a Game Boy that had a WWE game, and I would always play for Edge, even though like I didn't know what it was. I've never seen him. I like didn't know what he looked like or what he was about. And then I also had a toy of Edge way before I ever started watching wrestling. And it's so interesting too because now I collect wrestling figures, and this has been my like holy grail to find that toy because I have no pictures of it. I don't own it anymore, and my only point of reference is size, material, and the year, right? And I haven't been able to find like I would think it would have to be circa like 2001 or 2, and they were like bigger scale toys. They were like this big. They were bigger than Barbies, and they were like hard plastic. And that's all I know. And I know that there was an Edge and there was a Macho Man. So this is a call to anyone who's watching. If you know what that is, oh my God, please get in touch with me and let me know because I would love to own that toy again.
Surely Matt Cardona knows where they are. Surely he knows.
That I should ask Matt Cardona probably.
I know for like 7 years now that you've been in this wrestling business doing. Yes. I remember you unboxing figures and doing reactions. I want to know what was it like being in AEW's Daily Palace? Is it Daily Palace?
Daily's Place.
Daily's Place, yeah. What was it like being there? Because I would love to watch a wrestling event there.
It's a very special feeling. I love that venue. A lot of people hate it because it's very like amphitheater based, right? So there's definitely bad seats, but there's also really good seats. And one thing is that people also didn't like is they used to have like weird audio stuff. There would be like blind spots for audio where you would like sit somewhere and you wouldn't like hear the promos. But they fixed it. It sounds amazing now. And it's just such a special place for anyone who loves AEW, and I'm sure you know. And I even have like a favorite seat in the house, the ringside, like front row corner seat, where the ringside seats connect with the ramp seats. Yeah. That's the best seat in the house, in my humble opinion. Because I stayed in Jacksonville for a pretty long time, and I've been to that venue countless times, and I have such a special place in my heart for it. And I don't know if you know, but the Jaguar Stadium is getting renovated right now, and that's going to take several years. So I don't think AEW is coming back to Daily's Place anytime soon. But they're actually taping RH in Jacksonville still at the TV studio. So we still get to have some AEW in Jacksonville to this day.
You still get that little like moment. Was it memory that every time you go to Jacksonville, there's Daily's Place. For the last 2 years, though, you've been media strategic coach. I want to know, how did you get into that?
I think a lot of the new ventures that I've taken on in my life have been something where I just sat down and put the 2 and 2 together and realized 2 + 2 makes 5. Because it's the same way that I got into making content, where I looked around me and I realized that I had everything to do it. It was the same way with the coaching, where I have an education in media. I have a master's degree in strategic media communications. And I've also been making content for over 7 years. Yep. And I also have this very specific knowledge when it comes to wrestling industry specifically. And I've seen a lot and met a lot of people, worked with a lot of promotions. So it was just a moment where it dawned on me, where I was like, oh, I think all of this stuff that I've accumulated, all this knowledge, all this information needs to get passed on. I need to help people, because ultimately I feel like anyone who works in any industry that they love dearly, their main goal is to leave it better than they found it. And that's what it's always been for me. And it's always been the question of, what can I do to help people and to help businesses and to help make the industry better? And this is what it is. I think this is where I'm at my most useful,
What's the what's the system or habit you built that changed your business more than any platform algorithm ever could?
One thing that, and I know it actually has to do with real life a little more than with social media and media, but it's funny because I always tell people, I'm a media coach, but I talk about psychology, I talk about anthropology, I talk about, real life, real people, because ultimately your likes and views on your Instagram are people, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I learned is you have to make sure that every single person in your life knows what you do and how they can support you. Because I've seen people like hide that they're training to wrestle, for example, or lie to their loved ones or friends about how much money they're making or not making, or how much work they get, right? You have your support system, and those are the people to be vulnerable with. And I'm not saying, tell them everything, but I'm saying they need to know where you're at and what they can do to help. And this is a very good also, checkpoint for who your real friends are and who is actually trying to see you succeed and help you, right? But every single person in your life, and that also applies to if you ran into your old friend or your old school classmate, or if you just met someone and you're making a new friend, they have to know what you do and where to find you and like how to support you. And this is like such a basic first step that a lot of people try to skip, but you can't. It's, the good old full family and friends. You cannot skip that. As much as we are in the digital age and in the age of algorithms, you have to let people know what your deal is. And you have to know what your deal is to be able to let them know,
Absolutely. With Wrestling Pedigree, it's been 9 months I created it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any advice for someone starting as a content creator and doing interviews with wrestlers? Is there like any free advice where you could, like, anyone could receive?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one thing, it doesn't only apply to content creators, but it applies to content creators, I think, more than on-screen talent. Because one thing that I say about wrestlers is that they have a built-in persona. They have a built-in archetype. It's something that other people who start making content, aka content creators, have to sit down and figure out. And wrestlers have it built in. Like if you have a gimmick, you're set. You can start.
Yeah.
But for a content creator, ask yourself 2 questions. What is it that I do that no one else does that makes similar content? And or what is it that I do better than everyone else doing the same thing that I do? And this is going to be your basis for your positioning, for your podcast name, even for your bios on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere, right? Because there are so many people making content. I'm sure you know. The field is pretty saturated, even though I still think the wrestling field is still not very saturated. You have to have something that sets you apart. And you have to be exactly sure what it is. If someone asks you in 30 seconds or less, you have to be able to tell them why they need to watch your podcast and not someone else's. And in wrestling, it's even more so fun and cool and easy, and like it is in any entertainment field, because no one's going to fact check you. It's wrestling.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what kayfabe is. Everyone knows what gimmicks are. So if you say I am the best XYZ in the world, it doesn't have to be backed by research. You're not an athlete. You're not a doctor, right? So you have to come up with that something that is your best in the world, or something different, something unique, something you've never seen before. And it's interesting because for Americans, it's something so natural. Like they really feel this, because in America, if you go to any like small town, it's always the best something. It's the borax capital of the world, or it's the biggest hot dog on the West Coast. Like they know this kind of stuff. It's always something. And it's such a simple and easy and old marketing trick, but it works.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely take that advice on 100%. Is there a misconception people have about you that you secretly find funny?
About me, yeah.
Yeah, about you.
There's a lot. If you read my replies on Twitter, you will see all of them. And I usually, don't take the time to like sit down and debunk every single one, because there's not enough time in the day. But people think I've like had like a ton of plastic surgery. That is not true. My lips are very obviously fake, and I've never denied that, and I talk about it and I post about it, but everything else is natural. And it's not that there's nothing, like, it's not that there's anything wrong with getting plastic surgery, and I definitely feel like maybe in the future I would, but that's simply not true. And when people try to use it as a gotcha, it's very strange to me because that's not the case. Another one is that I'm like someone's something in wrestling, like someone's girlfriend or someone's daughter or someone's niece, and someone is like pushing me in the business. Couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not even from this country. I started out in Russia and in Spain and in Europe doing wrestling stuff, and I came here with nothing but my connections that I built through social media, actually. So no, I have zero like family connections in wrestling, and no one is propelling me. I'm not an industry plant. I feel like if I was an industry plant, I would be an even bigger name. So that is not true. People always like to like guess online whoever I've been entangled with, and it's always wrong. I've never seen the single correct guess about that. But yeah, also people don't really take information-based businesses seriously usually. And that applies both to my journalism and both to my media education. I have people throw "you're not a real journalist" at me all the time, even though I have my bachelor's degree is in journalism and PR, and I've worked for a news channel back at home, and like I'm very much a real journalist. I'm a member of the union in Romania that I'm a citizen of, so very much a real journalist. It's all this kind of stuff, and it's just like people will grasp at straws to try and put you down, and you can't escape it. Like, you cannot be perfect enough for the internet. Like, you can be the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the most well-educated, the most humble, nice, sweet person in the world. And if you have a platform, if you have reach, you will still have haters, and you will still have people who think you are the worst thing ever. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think on the internet, whenever reporters and media content creators like yourself are so successful, they think, oh, it's a silver spoon. They always think that, and it's just hard work craft. What's a moment of negativity that unexpectedly made you better at what you do? Was it just that? Yeah. Was there anything negative that just made you think, what, screw you, I'm going to do this better than ever?
I don't know. Like, I don't think I'm fueled by that, I think I'm fueled just by like positive experiences and by like positive reinforcement. And like, this is why I feel like for any kind of performer too, if we're talking about wrestlers, right? Yeah. That social proof is so important, and being on social media and getting that feedback, because ultimately we're artists and they're artists, even more so than I am, right? And for any artist, it's so natural to want to show the world and to want to show the people and to want to hear that feedback. And like, for me, in what I do, one of the most gratifying moments are when wrestlers come back to me that I've worked with and go like, oh my gosh, I've been using this thing that you told me to do, or that you told me to tweak, and I've been seeing such great results. Or for example, if someone comes up to me at the show and goes like, oh my God, I watch your YouTube videos, or I follow you on Instagram and I love your content. Those are the most gratifying moments for me, even though it's technically just one person as opposed to like 10,000 views, right? But it's this like real face-to-face connection of like, oh my God, because I'm sure you understand that when you're a content creator, a lot of the time when you film something like at home, right, when you're not at the show or on location, you feel like you're just sitting in your room and talking to a robot, a camera, right? You don't feel like you're talking to real people. But truth of the matter is, you are talking to real people. So when those real people recognize you and come up to you, it's this very important, cool recognition of, oh yeah, doesn't just exist in my imaginary bubble. There's real people on the other side of it that I have impacted positively, hopefully.
So awesome. It's hard to put this one. Which interview taught you the most about how wrestlers think when the camera isn't rolling?
Oh, that is so interesting. I love that question. I don't know if I can pinpoint one single interview, but one thing that I found out very early on that I didn't expect is that a lot of wrestlers are actually camera shy and don't like being on camera and don't like talking to the camera, which is so interesting. And wow. that is like an uphill battle for them every time they have to do a promo or anything like that. And that has been reinforced through my media work with wrestlers, because people are so afraid that like they will come across inauthentic. But truth of the matter is, if you are not inauthentic, you're not going to come across that way. Just be like, it's so simple and silly, but be yourself, do what's natural to you. Like no one is wanting to bend you out of shape. It's not healthy for you to do something every day that bends you out of shape. But yeah, how different wrestlers are on camera and off camera, because I'm not going to name drop to like not ruin everybody's gimmicks and billability, right? But just now, this last weekend when we were filming videos at NWA, I was just asking like some like simple interview questions, and this one wrestler is just like so intense on camera. It's like, oh my god, this like big scary guy. And then the second we cut, he's like, oh, was that good? Oh, I'm sorry for the hiccups. Was this okay? And it's just like such a funny contrast every time. But I haven't had any like super negative experiences. I've definitely had, excuse me, I've had it a couple times where the interview went somewhere that I didn't think it would, but also like not in a good way. Like I've definitely had people like veer into like denying climate change, while we're doing a wrestling interview, or for example, like express some very controversial opinions where, again, as an interviewer, as a journalist, if you're giving them that space, they have every right to express it. But it was sometimes to the point where I had to like put a little disclaimer saying that like XZT Media doesn't agree with all the opinions expressed in this video. But nothing horrible. Like ultimately, they're just people doing their job.
Is there a wrestler who is way smarter about the business than people give them credit for?
Yeah, a lot. I think a lot of them are. Without like pointing too many fingers at too many people and it coming across as I'm like, oh, I thought you were dumb. It's not that. Obviously I knew they were great and a great wrestler, but like we ended up having a way more profound conversation than I thought we would. The person who comes to mind is Brian Cage. I really love my interview that I did with him because, for a lot of people who are marketed and portrayed in those like monster heels, it's like, oh, I'm a big, strong, scary guy, blah, blah. You don't expect them to be so in tune with like wrestling psychology and match structures and what makes sense, what doesn't, and how you connect with the audience and how you control audience reactions and all of that. And we ended up having such a great conversations about like wrestling psychology with him. And I was, pleasantly surprised, not because, again, I didn't expect from him personally, but because we are so used to the notion that, oh, if you're big and strong and muscular, like you don't need to think too much or you don't need to do too much, which I feel like in modern wrestling, we're past that. Like it doesn't matter how big and strong you are, you still need to be different. You still need to be in tune with what you're doing and how you connect with the audience.
With the unfortunate releases this past week, how was someone with so much expertise with you with the media coach give advice to the release guys who are, especially the NXT ones, that want to branch out and promote themselves, especially on social media? What was the advice would you give them?
Yeah, very, very unfortunate what happened. And it's unfortunate the way that TKO handles it, where they get zero warning. Like we heard Zelina Vega say that she got like new merch design shown to her in the morning and fired in the evening. Like it's crazy and it's unfortunate and it's sad every time. But one thing that I always tell people, and actually even have a video about it on my Instagram, is there's this magic moment to start a new project or a new venture or whatever it is. And that magic moment is at the moment that your previous project has ended. And this is exactly the time for them to do something with this, for them to put themselves out there, again, depending on what the contract and the non-competes allow, obviously. But this is the time to do something, change name, change look, or announce a tour, or announce a new website, new paid service, something. Because this is the time where they're going to have the most eyes on them,
Yeah.
This is the time where their name is being said the most times, probably in the last, several months. So I know it's sad, I know it's traumatic, and I can't even express with words how terrible it is for those people. But ultimately, it's not the time to cry over spilled milk. It's the time to do something, because this is when they're in the spotlight. And with every day that they're silent after the release, that hype is going to keep dying down. So it's very much a race against time. And one thing that actually Matt Cardona tweeted about this, and he's such a shining example of someone who turned their career around and who was only better and greater after the WWE release. He said there's only 3 things that can happen after you get released from WWE. Number 1 is you fade to obscurity. Number 2, you coast on your WWE name. And number 3 is you reinvent yourself and you make the best version of you that's ever existed and you capitalize on that attention. And that third option is the only correct option, the only right way to handle this.
Would you say, you mentioned Matt Cardona, would you say Matt Cardona, Killer Cross, and Aaron Haddad, one of the perfect examples?
Absolutely, 100%. And it wasn't, an easy journey for any of those people. We know that, and this is something that they've all publicly talked about, so I'm not like peeling any curtains here, but Matt Cardona for almost a year sat at home after his release, because he was just so crushed, because for him, he has such a unique journey as a wrestler because he barely was ever on the indies, before WWE. I was laughing about it too because his biography almost looks like was born, got signed by WWE. That was his wrestling career pre-WWE. So it took him a moment to, regroup and realize what was the best thing to do. And to start doing indies was him pushing himself out of his comfort zone. And for Killer Cross too, I'm such a huge fan of Killer Cross. I think he's amazing as a wrestler, as a worker, as someone, to work and film with. He's absolutely fantastic, super professional. And he strikes me as a great person too, because, him and Scarlett do so much. They help stray animals. They give back to the wrestling community. Like, they're just great people all around. And for him, he's struggled in the past with the audience seeing past that monster heel thing, because WWE took him and inserted him into the black and gold or post black and gold, the colorful NXT, where he was not a great fit at all. If anything, he was always a great fit for the main brand. But then they stuck him in matches with like super like fan favorites, like indie darlings, like like Adam Cole. And obviously the crowd is not going to cheer Killer Cross over Adam Cole at NXT in Full Sail. Like, that's just not going to happen, So he was almost set up for failure. So he had to reinvent himself over and over and over again. And with the help of Scarlett, absolutely, she's a crucial detail of his wrestling gimmick and activities and fame and everything. And he's also had to struggle to find that persona and find himself and do other things that are not super wrestling things, to write a book, to star in movies. And that helped people connect with him beyond that persona of like, oh, I'm going to kill everyone, And with Aaron Haddad as well, he was very much reserved and under wraps and not doing anything for a long time after WWE, because he had to actually have a long form interview with him on my YouTube channel. It's the latest one that I posted, and it's such a great interview. It's probably the first time since WWE that he's talked about his wrestling life so in depth, and his pre-wrestling life too. But he started very young, barely had an indie run, and got signed really young by WWE. So it was really difficult for him to figure out what to do after. And this is something that a lot of post-WWE wrestlers face, because you get so used to the company doing everything for you. You don't have to worry about your merch, you don't have to worry about your appearances, you don't have to worry about your content. Like, they do everything for you. So then you release into the world like a rehab seal who was born in captivity, and you don't know what to do. And this is the time to either seek information or seek guidance. And this is, where I come in. And for me personally, a post WWE person is a perfect client because they have the work ethic, they have the name, but they don't have the structure. And I am the structure. I can give the structure and help them get it off the ground and do it themselves and learn to do it themselves. So yeah, long-winded answer, sorry, but yeah, very much so. Those people are shining examples of people who turned their careers around after WWE and who are doing better now than they were in WWE.
I think it's so much. It always is horrible when they get released and lose their job. However, there's so many places now to go that it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I feel like, especially the indies. I mean, you've seen it last week on Collective and Slamfest. I mean, a 14-year-old could whoop someone's ass. So everyone's talking about like GCW. So the indies at the moment is still red hot.
And you're right that nowadays there's more ways to go and there's more ways to approach it than there ever been probably. And obviously not everyone is cut out for the indies. Like we see people who are cut out for the indies, like Matt Cardona and like Nick Nemeth and like the Good Brothers, for example. Big fan of the Good Brothers. But those people are workaholics. Like you have to be a freaking workhorse to make good money on the indies. And this is not to say that you have to constantly wrestle even, but this is back to what I was saying, where you have to handle everything yourself. You have to have everything under control, or have a team, or have a person, and you have to constantly do something, constantly release new merch, constantly make content, constantly appear, constantly connect. So not everyone is cut out for that. So nowadays, again, we still have more options than we ever had with AEW having comparable paydays, and with MLW having comparable exposure and access, and with NWA just now signed a new TV deal like a week ago.
Yeah.
Also great product, great exposure. So there's so many more places to go now. And again, this is not to say that if you get signed with a different company, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to, be aware of your merch and your appearances and your persona and everything. It's still your job. No one's going to do it for you. But there's just different ways to go for different people who want different things, and that's beautiful,
What's the most underrated skill a wrestling interviewer needs that fans never notice?
It's interesting. I think almost like, I wouldn't say empathy, but not quite, like almost like responsiveness. Because I've done, and I still do, backstage interviews, right, for wrestling promotions.
Yeah.
And I've had to train people to do it too. So there would be a new person coming in, maybe they have experience ring announcing, or maybe they have experience making content in a different sphere, but they've never done backstage interviews. And one thing that I see with those people is they are so hyper aware of themselves in the shot and not aware of the wrestler. And you have to remember that you're still having a conversation. Even if it's scripted, even if you're trying to get like a specific promo across, even if you are not even super actively a part of it and you're just a microphone stand most of it, right? You're still a person in the frame. Some people freeze up. Some people try to get like their own expressions or words in without being responsive to what the other person is saying. You have to respond to everything they do. Are they suddenly yelling? You're slightly scared and concerned. Are they pushing you? You're again either scared or you're like, oh, what the hell is happening? Like, get away from me. Are they like saying something funny? You kind of smile, you laugh. Like, you can't be a snowman in the frame, And people connect with people. People are very social animals, very social creatures. And something that's so hardwired in our monkey brains is reading other people's faces and expressions and tones of voice. This is what makes that social connection that is happening happen, right? So don't forget that you're human with another human in the frame.
A lot of ex-wrestlers say this. Two last questions for this one. Do you think the art of selling is dying down?
What's dying down?
The art of selling.
Oh, good question. You know what? I don't think it's dying down on like the highest levels, but it's definitely something that people need to learn and keep learning on the indies, 100%. I actually saw a video by Spud on Instagram recently, because he trains at wrestling. He like trains people at wrestling school. I don't know if he owns or co-owns it, but it's his wrestling school. And what he was saying is, he's like in the ring, and he's like, in this ring, everything hurts. Because it does. I don't have any wrestling training, but I did like one silly video because people kept bugging me about it, and I learned to run the ropes. Running the ropes hurts. You get bruises on your back from running the ropes. Running the ropes hurts, falling hurts, getting slammed into the turnbuckle hurts. Everything hurts. So show them that it hurts. Because if you don't, and then the next person is selling better than you are, you're taking them out of the realm of believability. Where, they're selling, but you just told them 5 minutes ago that this doesn't hurt, And this is when we get people who like touch a wrestling ring for the first time, fans, and they're like, oh, this is hard. Like, this is harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, tell them. As a performer, it's your job to tell them this is not a freaking trampoline, it's not a bouncy castle. So I wouldn't say that it's dead, but I would say that it definitely needs more focus on it and more attention to it.
I think a lot of people, fans, still think it's a trampoline, but if they touch it, it's like, yeah, it's wood and steel, and cables and ropes. One last question: was there a moment of all the interviews you've done and all the content where you instantly thought, "Yep, this clip is going viral"?
Oh my God. I don't know. Honestly, no. Because you know what? The stuff that goes viral, which when we say viral, we've kind of lost the sense of what it means. Viral, like 10 years or 15 years ago, when something went, you called something viral, right? It was something that everyone was aware of. Like you show up to school and everyone's repeating a video. But now when we say virality, we've kind of softened what it means. And usually when we say, oh, this went viral, we mean it got about like 1,000% more views than your usual stuff. Like that's where you're like, okay, it took off, right? It left the bubble.
Yep.
And for me and for a lot of other creators, it's always the stuff that you don't expect to go viral that goes viral. It's always something that took minimal effort. Like you sit down and you edit something for 3 hours and it gets like 2,000 views. And then you just like haphazardly post something and it gets a million views. Like for me, the last thing that went like kind of viral was when MLW had their pay-per-view here in Orlando. And they had a battle royal, or battle riot is what they call it. And the Good Brothers were in it. But then for his second entry, Luke Gallows returned as Festus for the first time in years. And I just like very like quickly haphazardly posted on Instagram, and it got like 2 million views. It took me 30 seconds to post that. So it's always the stuff that you don't expect. And like I have heard from other creators where they have had that like hunch that like, oh, this is going, or like this soundbite is gonna go viral. But for me, I usually try to not guess because you can't really guess.
I also think that nostalgia sells.
Yeah, 100%.
So seeing Festus come out, I no wonder there was like over 2 million.
Nostalgia sells, but I'll tell you another thing. Urgency sells. Like if something cool or exciting or unusual happens at a wrestling show and you're the first to post about it, way more likely to go viral. Or another thing that they've noticed that usually takes off and performs really well is if you're live at a show and something happens that the cameras don't capture and you post it. Another thing that happened, remember when the Young Bucks dressed up as the Hardys?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is like such a layered like meme situation, but I don't know if you remember like old NXT when it was like a game show situation and there were like rookies and their mentors. There was a moment where Matt Hardy was mentoring Justin Gabriel, who is now PJ Black, whom I adore, one of my favorite wrestlers, by the way, shout out to PJ Black. And they were doing like their entrance and Matt Hardy went on the ropes and fell over the ropes.
Yeah.
So when the Young Bucks dressed up as the Hardys, they actually did that bit. Like one of them fell over the ropes, but the cameras cut away. The cameras didn't get it. It wasn't on TV. But guess who did get it? Me. So that video went really viral too.
I love that. I like the little Easter eggs that sub-reddit wrestlers do.
It's like a deep cut reference too, from like many years ago.
With that now, I want to thank you so much for joining me. This has been phenomenal interview, and for someone that started, I think this is my second interview.
Oh wow, you're doing really good for being your second interview.
Thank you. My first one was with Headbanger Mosh.
Nice.
That was a few months ago, and you're my second one, and I got a third one on Thursday. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's just the nerves for someone that's doing content with a big accent and just it's just really nerves. But thank you so much for being so cool. I'm so sorry I butchered your name.
No, thank you so much for having me. And like, I genuinely really enjoyed the questions. Like, I think one thing as an interviewer, again, that you really have to be aware of is to not be repetitive, because people who do a lot of interviews, and I do a lot of interviews to promote my media guidance, right? get asked the same questions every single time. And obviously, you do want to introduce some context for people who maybe have never seen this person before, but you want to avoid being repetitive. And a lot of the questions that you asked me today, I don't think I've ever been asked. And I really enjoyed the questions. And yeah, this has been great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. What we do on Wrestling Pedigree is promote. So where can people find you on your socials?
Yeah, they can find me at Xenia Did That. It's right here. And this is me everywhere, on Instagram, on X, on YouTube as well. On my YouTube, I have longer form interviews with wrestlers. I've interviewed over 200, I think, or 250 wrestlers from 20 different countries in 3 different languages. So I'm sure you'll find something that you'd like. On Instagram, more short form content and live show content and little snippets and bits with wrestlers as well, and some travels. And if you are a professional in wrestling, and that can be a wrestler, a promoter, a content creator, a photographer, videographer, referee, anyone, and if you think you're ready to make that step to grow your social media, to connect with your audience, to find your true fans, then reach out to me, DM me, email me, tap the link in my bio to see more information, and let's do it. Let's make the wrestling business a better place.
It definitely needs to be a better place. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for everyone that was watching and listening to us on YouTube and on wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time, from me, and it's
Xenia?
Xenia, told you, I'll butcher it. It's the accent. I'm blaming the accent. From us too, enjoy professional wrestling and have a great night.